Okay, good morning everyone. Today we have a very, very important topic. Maybe the most important topic that we'll ever speak about. Recently somebody told me that their grandfather, who was in Raden, was a Talmid of the Chafetz Chaim, when the yeshiva was running away during the war, they were in Siberia. So this his Zayda was the barber in Raden. The barber of Raden. Not the barber of Seville, the barber in Raden. And when they were in Siberia, actually when I was coming back now from Raden, I was in JFK, I saw a guy, he's like, bless you, bless you. I figure he's the evangelical guy. He says he prays for us. I said, yeah, where do you live? He lives in Siberia, opposite Alaska. I said, oh, that's nice. It gets cold over there. He said, yeah, it gets to like -60 degrees. So anyway, these Jews who were in Siberia, he had a choice. They asked him, the Commandant asked him, what do you do? What do you know how to do? So he figured if he tell them that he's a barber, he'll be able to work indoors, maybe save his life. But he made a cheshbon. He could either be a barber and he'll have to do barbering on Shabbos, or he'll have to chop wood on Shabbos. If he chops wood on Shabbos, okay, every log will be another lav. But with the haircut, every hair is another lav on Shabbos, right? So if he's giving a haircut, that's like, I don't know, how many hairs on the head? Probably millions of hairs. So, what? Depends, whether the guy's Ashkenazic or not. But when even someone with hair loss probably has millions of hair on the side, and he was moiser nefesh to chop wood in the freezing tundra rather than be a barber indoors. Okay, so the reason I'm speaking about this is yesterday, Agavorcha in the drasha, I mentioned that you have to be very careful in a particular area that the machines are not used to make it even, because there might be a prohibition of lo sakifu pa'as roishchem. So someone came over to me and he said he wasn't aware of it, if I could help him do tshuva. So I thought that was really godless, So, human nature is you hear something that you didn't know, you get very defensive about it. No, it's not true. There must be another opinion. This is a strict opinion. But to be makabel and want to know how to rectify it, that's ashrei nesoi chet. Fortunate is somebody who takes responsibility and improves it. Okay, so the first thing I want to speak about is the lav of lo sakifu pa'as roishchem. Everybody have the diagram? Everyone have the picture? Lo sakifu pa'as roishchem. Now, very important. The Torah says lo sakifu pa'as roishchem v'lo sashchis eis pa'as kanecha. You're now to encircle the payot of your head, which means you can't make it where you just have hair on top and the hair on the side of the temples is removed, and therefore the top is circular. And now there, when it comes to lo sakifu pa'as roishchem, it doesn't say not to use a razor. It almost implies any manner of removal of hair in this area is a problem, razor or scissors. And then it says by the beard, v'lo sashchis eis pa'as kanecha. You're now to destroy the hair, the corners of your beard. So it seems like by the beard you can't use a razor. By the encircled area you can't use anything. You can't remove it in any way. And that is the opinion. You can't remove it anyway. However, the Rambam holds that we make a hekesh. They're hukash lahadadi. The same way by the beard, it's only a problem if you use a razor on the sides of the head. It's only a problem if you use a razor. Now, so according to the Rambam, a halachic haircut is a cinch, because obviously no barber would dare take a razor and put it not only anywhere in this area, but anywhere near your face, because we're not exactly sure where the various corners are. You can't, that's one thing, you can't use a razor anywhere near your face. You can't use a razor anywhere near, there's no area that we could say, yeah, you could use a razor there. So according to the Rambam, the same way the beard is only prohibited with a razor, so too the sides of the head are only prohibited with a razor. However, the Rosh disagrees. The Rosh says no, the razor is only for pa'as zikanecha, because it says lo sashchis, you can't destroy, but lo sakifu, you can't use scissors. According to the Rosh, you cannot use scissors in this area to make your hair too short. How do we paskin like? The Rosh. we're machmer like the Rush, that in this area, you cannot make the hair too short. Nothing, not only with the razor, even with scissors. You cannot make the hair too short with scissors. So it behooves us to identify what this area is. Because even with scissors, you can't make it too short. Now, usually with scissors, they're not going to make it too short because it's hard to get to cut it at the root. The problem is they're using the machine. Okay? The machine is going to cut the hair too short in this area. You know, very often people want to have like a very trimmed haircut over here, and you cannot use the machine for the most part because it's going to be a problem of loy sakifu pa'as roishchem. Now we need to identify what this area is. So two things. This is the most important thing. Nowadays, the coolest haircut is you have guys, I don't know, maybe it's a Jewish thing, and by the time they're 17 years old, there's no more hair on the top. They're done, you know? And I don't know what it is. It's the cholent, it's the water, I don't know. But once there's hair loss on the top, then it's not cool anymore to have no hair on the top and have a lot of hair on the side. That's like so 80s, you know? That's like, or 70s. So what they do is the buzz cut, where they want to have the bald look. So they get a really close haircut on the payot area. Now you still see little bristles, but it's like, you know, it's like NBA style, you know? Are you allowed to do that? No, it's Isser D'Oraisa. It's potentially an Isser D'Oraisa, that haircut. And you see from people, they wear talis, they wear tefillin, they keep Shabbos, but their haircut is shalok halacha. So now the question is, what about, I don't have that kind of haircut. Where do I need to be careful to make sure the barber doesn't use the machine so that he doesn't cut any of the hairs too close? Okay, what exactly are pa'as roishchem? So take a look at the diagram, okay? Another thing is, when you take a haircut on Erev Shabbos, you need to have a few kavanos. Kavanah number one is you're taking the haircut, l'kavat Shabbos. Shlomo, how many kavanos should you have when you take the haircut? 7, exactly. 7 kavanas. Number one, you're doing it, you're taking the haircut, l'kavat Shabbos. Then you could add all the other kavanas. Every time you do a mitzvah, you do a tshuva. You do it, nu Shlomo? I shouldn't put you on the spot. With ahava, with yira, with simcha, to be mezakeh klal Yisrael, to bring nachas HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then every time you take your haircut, you need to be mechavein, not to violate the lav of loy sakifu pa'as roshchem.
The Rav saying you should not.
We'll see. There might be a setting. We'll get it. We'll talk about the share.
And pay a worker on time.
Oh yeah, right. And pay the worker on time. Thank you. Okay, so let's identify what exactly are pa'as roshchem. Basically, it's going to be created with 3 corners. Corner number 1, and this I took from Rabbi Avi Wiesenfeld's Pocket Halacha series, the halachas of haircuts. Okay, I'm not an expert on this topic, but because it's haircut season, just so you should have some level of awareness. This guy who gave permission to allow his face to be used, I can't tell you his name. His name is Avraham Yitzchak, Rashi Teivos AI. Okay? Anyway, corner number 1 is here. Okay? You see this corner? You know what this corner is? Corner number 1 is, there are 2 areas of hair. There's hair in the front where the hair starts going down toward the eyes, and there's hair on the side where the hair starts growing down to the ears. Those are 2 distinct growing patterns. Hair that grows down to the eyes, hair that goes down to the ears. In that's corner number 1, where the hair that goes down to the eyes is perpendicular to the hair that starts growing toward the ear. Okay? That's corner number 1 over here. Corner number 2 is not so clear. It seems like it's the apex, the highest point of the hairline over the ear. Okay, the highest point. I think the Ari says it's a bit above it, just as a chumrah. But halachically, it's the apex of the hairline over the ear. That's corner number 2. Corner number 3 is the bottom of the jawbone, of the bone on the side of the head. What? Cheekbone. Someone got it. Cheekbone. The bottom of the cheekbone. Okay? Now, many people think the place to put the payot is, let me feel where the bone is, and it should be below that. No, sorry. Somebody conned you into thinking that. That bone is not relevant to this discussion. I don't care how many people in kindergarten told you that, or in pre-1A, or in first grade, or you heard it from your mora, or your mother, or your aunt, or your aunt's goldfish's friend told you that it has to be by the bone. That has nothing to do with anything. That's not a relevant point over here. There are going to be 3 opinions, and it's not connected to that. It's very hard to identify where that is. And here we go. You ready? We're going to identify the 3 points. Point number 1. You see, turn over the sheet. Sheeta number 1. Sheet number 1 is, some hold that the pa'as roishchem needs to go down to the middle of the canal of the ear. The middle of the canal of the ear. You see that? That's number 1. Where you have the ear canal, you see this hole? That hole is where all sound waves go into that hole. I can't explain to you how sound works. Maybe Dr. Menachem will explain the mechanism over here. But the middle of the canal of the ear is shita number 1. Sometimes you see people with very short payos. We hope it goes long enough that it goes down to the middle of the canal of the ear. Whose opinion is this? It's brought in the Shalsa Tshuvas Eretz Tzvi. The second opinion, it's the bottom of the ear canal. The bottom of the ear canal. You see where the bottom of the ear canal is? The hole, the bottom of the hole. It should go to the bottom of the hole. Whose opinion is that? It seems that this is what the Shulchan Aruch means when it says lamata min ha'oizen, below the ear, until the end of the canal of the ear. This is the opinion of the Imrei Emes, also the Imrei Yosher. In the Sefer L'Shichnai Sidrashu, he says this is the minhag hamakubal b'roiv hamakoymos. Okay, so if your payos are, you feel I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm a car mechanic, I'm an electrician, and I'm only going to get business if my payos go all the way up to here. No, pal. First, let me give you some fashion advice. You look better if it goes down to the bottom of the ear canal. You look better. I'm telling you my personal opinion. Not as a rabbi. This is not halachic advice. This is not. I'm telling you aesthetically, your face looks better if it's framed up to the bottom of the ear canal. But besides that, now, halachically, that is the majority opinion. And you need to do that. You need to do that. Unless with conviction you feel that this is going to affect your livelihood, but even so, it's very doubtful. I'm telling you, it's not going to affect your livelihood. It needs to be to the bottom of the ear canal. There's a third opinion, and it seems like Rabbi Yashiv holds this way, that it needs to go down to the bottom of the earlobe. Now, I'm not so sure about that. I think you could legitimately say that it means to where the earlobe connects to the face. Okay, you hear what I'm saying? Because the earlobe goes below, the earlobes go below. So this is the opinion. This is the Elvis sideburns. Where it goes. What?
Boots.
The boots. Yeah. Is there basis for this? Yes. Yes, there is. Rabbi Yashiv says that's where it should be. Is it the minhag b'nei hayeshivos? For the most part, the b'nei Torah are makbid on number 2. But number 2 is you need to do that. Halachically, you need to do number 2. Okay? Now, so this is the area where I've identified pa'as roishchem. So pa'as roishchem goes from this point, this corner, by where the hair starts to go down to the face, as opposed to the hair going down to the ear. That's corner 1. Corner number 2 is the apex above the ear. Corner number 3 is the end of the ear canal. Okay? The Chazon Ish added that it's best to encircle from point A to point B. You see what I mean? Encircle. In other words, don't make a straight line from here to here, but rather it should be encircled. In this area, you cannot cut the hair too short. What does too short mean? Not only with a razor, but even with a scissor. You cannot cut any of the hair too short. So how long does it have to be? So, now when we say a razor, it means a razor blade, a shaver, a scissor, cream. You can't cut it too short in that area. What is too short? So let me tell you the shiurim that are given over here. Okay. It means between 3 and 5 millimeters. Less than that, you've cut it too short. And you're over loisakifu pasroshchem. Between 3 and 5 millimeters. Okay? Which means to use that machine, you know, the machine, without any of the guard on the machine, you know, the machine that he uses to cut the hair on the back, to use that machine in this area is a problem, which means he can't start like trimming to make it look very neat in this area. He can't use the machine here. So he's going to use the machine, and what he's going to say is, he's not touching your face. He's using it like a scissor. And he is. Because most from barbers, they know they can't cut it too short. But the thing is, even though they claim they're using it like a scissors, maybe the hair a little bit higher will cut like scissors. But the hair mamish by the face, they're going to be cutting too short. So you tell him, Rabbi Yid, you know, in this area, you can only use scissors. You can only use scissors. You have to tell the barber, in this area, from here until here, only scissors. Over here, from the back of the ear, he could use the machine. The back of the neck, he could use the machine. In this area, he cannot use the machine. And you're going to tell him, and 2 minutes later, he's going to be using the machine, and you're going to ask, what do you do? Oh, I forgot. He's going to forget. He's going to keep on forgetting. You have to remind him again and again and again not to use the machine in this area. And you're going to look good. You're going to come home. Your wife says, "Whoa, you look dashing. Where did you go?" "No, I used scissors today." Wow. Right? You're going to get a lot of compliments. Okay?
Some barbers are Sephardic, and they say
The Rambam? Yeah, because right, that's also a good point. Because according to the Rambam, you could cut it too short here. But the Shulchan Aruch, though, is machmer like the Rosh also.
They say, I go according to my rabbi. I said, yeah, but you're not my rabbi. It's not.
You're not my rabbi.
That comes also problematic. Just tell him.
Right, you have to tell him that he has to get his act together halachically. Okay, Yossi pointed out also. Now, let's say the barber uses the machine here, and he gives you a nice pencil cut, payos. You know, the guy comes home, and his payos are like this thin. They don't grow naturally this thin. They're wide. So what? So who's over the lav? The barber or the barberette? You know, the barber or the guy who got the haircut? How do you say the the makif or the nikif? Who's over the lav? Echad hamakif, ve'echad hanikif. Could a woman cut it too short her? Yes, there's no isser of hashchasa for a woman who's a nikif. But say, okay, I have a good idea. I'll go to a woman barber. So besides other problems, a woman cannot encircle the hair of a man. So she could get the haircut. She can't give the haircut. So bottom line is...
What about this? Razors in the back, some people use razor over here.
I'm not even comfortable commenting on, but I think you're allowed to. I don't do it, but I think you're allowed to. It's definitely not pas roishchem or zikanecha. Is there a harchaka? I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know enough about it.
Close to the jaw.
Yeah, is it? I don't know. I don't know.
If they use a straight razor, you're really close to the jaw.
You mean they might slip? I don't know. I'm not sure.
People laser this area.
I don't think so. I'm not sure. That's a different issue of that's like a woman's type of activity, you know? What is called hair removal is more like, derech nashim. Okay, 1 second. So in terms of the shortness, it's too short meaning it has to be minimum 3 to 5 millimeters. Now, where does this come from? Basically, there are two shitas. Shita number one is the shach. The shach says, as long as there's a little bit of hair, it's okay, which would be a little bit of a meilat suchus on the buzz cut in this area. However, the opinion of the Chassam Sofer, brought in Ksav Sofer Yardei Sim Kuf Pei Aleph, also the Ben Ish Chai, Rabbi Kiva Eger, and others, is it has to be what is called Kidei Lachaf Roisha Le'ikra, to bend over the hair and it goes back to the root. It has to be long enough that you can bend it over, it goes back to it. How long is that? At least 5 millimeters. Reb David Feinstein says it should be 6 millimeters. Okay? So Lamaisa, if you're going, it's best to use only scissors in that area. If you're going to use a machine, a 2-guard is good. A 2-guard is good. Yeah? A 1-guard is a problem. A 1-guard cuts it 1/8 of an inch, which is 3.175 millimeters, which is too short. It needs to be 1/4 of an inch. Okay? So if you want to use the machine, you have to tell the barber to use a 2-guard in this area. A 1-guard is not good enough. The machine itself is not good enough. And if you do that, imagine that you have a guy. What did he do the whole day? Maybe he learned a few minutes in the morning, and then he learned a little Mishnah Berurah after that, and then, I don't know, how many mitzvahs could he do already? But then he goes to the barber, and he's mechavin to mekayim the mitzvah of lo yisakifu pas roishchem. And if he does it right, he comes out of the barber, he just got 1,000,000 mitzvahs. Some people I know, they go to the barber more than they go 5 times a day. Because every time you go to the barber, no, I'm joking. But, what?
That's expensive.
Yeah, especially now with the new prices. Yeah? But, in any event, it's the barber place could be a mamish. You could get more mitzvahs in the barber shop than anywhere else. I mean, it rivals the Beis Medrash. Beis Medrash, you get 200 mitzvahs a minute. In the barber shop, you could get 1,000,000 mitzvahs a minute.
They have strong men too now.
They said they were sending around the barber shops in Lakewood. One guy was getting a haircut, and the 20 guys sitting around, they're all learning, right? But really, the guy in the seat who wasn't learning was getting more mitzvahs than the guy sitting around learning, because the guy in the seat, he was using scissors in that area. Okay, that's all. So, look, most Sharmei Torah mitzvahs know you can't cut this area too short. Where just you have to remember is that it does make it neater with the machine in this area. You just tell them to use a scissor, and then you're good to go. No, combing, you're allowed to comb. There's no problem with combing.
I'm saying you're about.
Yeah, you're allowed to. It's davar she'eino miskaven. You're allowed to comb. Yeah, if you don't comb, how do you get perfectly permed, curled payos? You think it naturally grows like that? They have to comb it, you know? You can't, that just like that is not going to do it. You need, yeah. Okay, Rabbi Sai, have a great day. Bracha v'atzlacha, shkayach.